December 30th, 2000. Tokyo, Japan. The Setagaya district, a quiet residential neighborhood. The Miyazawa family is getting ready to celebrate New Year's. Mikio Miyazawa, 44, is a businessman. His wife Yasuko is 41. They have two kids, Niina, 8, and Rei, 6. It's a normal evening. The family goes to bed around 11 p.m. By morning, all four of them will be dead. And the killer will leave behind so much evidence that it should have been the easiest case to solve. But over 20 years later, nobody has been caught. This isn't a case where the killer was careful. This isn't some mastermind who covered his tracks. The killer left his DNA everywhere. He left fingerprints, he left footprints, he left the murder weapon, he left his jacket, his shoes, his hat. He ate the family's ice cream and left saliva. He used their toilet and left feces. He used their computer. He bandaged his own wounds with their first aid kit and left bloody tissues. He stayed in the house for hours after the murders doing God knows what. We have more evidence in this case than almost any unsolved murder in history. And yet, the killer has never been identified. Here's what happened. Around 11:30 p.m. on December 30th, someone entered the Miyazawa house. They lived in a two-story home that backed up to a small park. The house shared a wall with another house, but the entrance was separate. The killer came in through a window on the second floor that faced the park. It was unlocked. Mikio was working in his second-floor office. He heard something and went to investigate. The killer attacked him. They fought. Mikio was stabbed multiple times. He fought hard, harder than the killer expected. The struggle was violent. Blood spattered everywhere. Mikio was stabbed over a dozen times, wounds to his head, neck, and body. He eventually collapsed and bled to death. Yasuko heard the commotion and came out of the bedroom. The killer attacked her immediately. She was strangled and then stabbed. She died in the hallway. 8-year-old Niina was in the loft area above the stairs. She either came out when she heard the noise or the killer went up there. She was strangled to death. Then the killer went into the bedroom where 6-year-old Rei was sleeping. He strangled the boy in his bed. 4 people dead, the entire family murdered. And then the killer didn't leave. He stayed in that house for hours, maybe 6, 7, 8 hours. He wandered around. He went through their belongings. He ate ice cream from their freezer, 4 different types of ice cream. He drank barley tea. He used their toilet multiple times. He used their computer to browse the internet. He logged into his own account and checked websites. He took a nap on their couch. He treated the house like it was his own. The killer had injured himself during the struggle with Mikio. He was bleeding from his hand. He used the family's first aid supplies to bandage himself. He left bloody tissues, bloody towels, blood all over the house. His blood. He left his DNA on ice cream containers, on teacups, on the toilet, on tissues, on bandages, everywhere. When he finally left, he left behind his jacket, a Slazenger brand jacket. He left his shoes, rare Nike Air Max sneakers, sized 27.5 centimeters, that were only sold in a limited run and only in Korea. He left his bag. He left the murder weapon, a kitchen knife he'd brought with them. He left his hat. He left sand in his shoes that was later analyzed and found to be from a very specific location. The bodies were discovered on December 31st, the next morning, by Yasuko's mother, who came to check on the family when they didn't answer the phone. She found the horror inside and called the police. When investigators arrived, they couldn't believe the amount of evidence. This should have been the easiest case to solve. The killer had basically left his entire identity in that house. The DNA told them a lot. The killer was male, likely in his late teens to 20s. He had mixed ancestry, possibly Korean or Asian mixed with Southern European, specifically from around the Mediterranean. His blood type was A. They had his full DNA profile. They could identify him if they ever found him. The items he left behind told them more. The jacket was purchased in Japan, but was a specific model. The shoes were only sold in South Korea and in very limited numbers. The hat was a specific brand sold in limited stores. Investigators traced every lead. They checked every store that sold those items. They checked border crossing records. They investigated thousands of people. They checked the internet history from the family's computer. The killer had logged into a website and left his IP address. But this was 2000. Internet tracking wasn't what it is now. The trail went cold. They found he'd been looking at information about a theater troupe and some random websites, but nothing that led to his identity. The sand in his shoes was analyzed. It came from Edwards Air Force Base in California. How did sand from an American military base in California end up in a killer's shoes in Tokyo? Was the killer American military? Was he connected to someone who was? Investigators contacted American authorities. They checked military personnel who'd been stationed in Japan or California. Nothing panned out. Japanese police created a massive task force. Over 280,000 investigators have worked this case over the years. They've followed up on over 120,000 tips. They've collected DNA from thousands of people. They've investigated everyone who lived near the park, everyone who worked in the area, everyone who might have had access. They've checked foreign residents in Tokyo. They've worked with international agencies. Nothing. Nobody matches. The killer's DNA has been run through every database in Japan. It's been shared with Interpol. It's been checked against databases in South Korea, China, the United States, Europe. No matches. Whoever this person is, they've never been arrested anywhere for anything. Or they're from a country that doesn't share DNA data, or they're dead. The Miyazawa case is unique because of the contradiction. We know so much about the killer, but we can't find him. We know his DNA. We know his shoe size. We know what he ate. We know he had access to items only sold in specific countries. We know he had sand from California on his shoes. We know he was likely of mixed heritage. We know he was young. We know he was injured. But we don't know who he is. There are theories. The most common is that the killer was a young man, possibly Korean or mixed heritage, who had recently been to California or had connections to Edwards Air Force Base, maybe military family. He was in Tokyo, maybe living there or just passing through. He entered the house randomly or with minimal planning. He killed the family in a panic after being confronted by Mikio. Then he stayed in the house, in shock, trying to figure out what to do. Eventually, he left and fled Japan. Another theory is that he's dead. He killed himself shortly after, which is why he's never been found. The injuries from fighting Mikio could have been worse than they seemed. Maybe he bled out somewhere. Maybe he died and was never connected to this case. The darkest theory is that he's still alive and living normally somewhere. Maybe back in Korea, maybe in another country entirely. Maybe he left Japan immediately and never came back. He might not even know that police have been looking for him for over 20 years. He might think he got away with it. What makes this case so frustrating is that everything points to this being solvable. The evidence is overwhelming. In most cases, this much evidence would lead to an arrest within days. But not here. The killer remains a ghost. A person with DNA, with fingerprints, with belongings, with a digital trail, and yet completely untraceable. The Japanese police haven't given up. They still run ads every year on the anniversary of the murders. They offer rewards for information. They display the killer's belongings in a public exhibition, hoping someone will recognize the jacket or the shoes and come forward. They've created detailed profiles and age progressions of what the killer might look like now. The house where the murders happened has been demolished. The city of Tokyo bought it and tore it down. They've built a small memorial park on the site. Every year, on December 30th, people leave flowers there for the Miyazawa family. Mikio, Yasuko, Niina, and Rei deserved so much better. They were a normal family celebrating the end of the year, looking forward to the new millennium. Instead, someone came into their home and took everything from them. And that person is still out there, somewhere, living with what they did. This case should be solvable. With modern DNA genealogy techniques, with the amount of evidence available, someone should be able to identify this killer. Maybe someday genetic genealogy will crack it, like it cracked the Golden State Killer case. Maybe someone will finally come forward with information. Maybe the killer is already dead, and we just don't know it. But until then, the Setagaya family murder remains one of the most baffling, unsolved cases in the world. Not because there's no evidence, but because there's too much evidence. And somehow, it still isn't enough. If you have any information about this case, contact the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. The reward is still active. Somewhere, someone knows something. Someone recognizes those shoes, that jacket. Someone knows a young man who disappeared from their life right after December 30th, 2000. Someone knows. Rest in peace, Miyazawa family. Justice is still waiting for you.